When it comes down to the redesigned Ranger in Colorado, there is a clear winner. But it only depends on how you look at it. I borrowed these trucks from Jerry Seiner Chevrolet and Larry H. Miller Super Ford here in Salt Lake City. If you would like to purchase this truck, it is available. However, this one is sold. Let's go ahead and check out the pricing and then we'll move around these trucks. Here's the window sticker for the Colorado, and you guys can see the colors. Now be sure to take note of the standard equipment on this truck. Base price is $40,200, and here are all the options on the list. So a lot of things do come as an option. Things like the tilt and telescoping steering wheel, it would just come with a tilt, and the easy lift and lower tailgate is an option. 8-way powered driver's seat. So yes, a few things like dual climate control, driver and front passenger heated seats, all these things are going to be an option. Now as far as the option list goes, it's just under $8,000, and total price is $49,750, and be sure to take note of the field economy numbers. At the very top is the description for the Ranger, and then here are all the standard equipment. It's just a partial listing actually, but you'll see some of the most important features listed there. Down below, there's really only one option on this truck, which is the towing package, and it's $825, but base price does come in higher with destination at $1,595. The total price is $49,535, so it's actually a little bit cheaper than the Chevy. Now here are the field economy numbers there. Now one thing I want to mention, there were 20-inch wheels added to the Chevy, so that will obviously affect the price a little bit, so just keep that in mind. When you consider the base price, the Ford is definitely a lot more money, $6,915 to be exact. But that doesn't tell you the whole story here, because as you guys saw, that Chevy has a lot of things that are an option, and it's still missing something that the Ford has that probably might be a deal breaker for some people. But let's go ahead and start off on the front end. Ford did their redesign for 2024, and despite what people say online, I think it looks pretty mean up front. When you get the Lariat, you do get the LED projector style dual beams here, full LED including the turn signals, and the fog lights have a projector style. There is a pass through right there on the front of the bumper into the fender, silver trimming down below with some recovery hooks. Parking sensors do come standard. Forward facing camera does come standard, and all in all, I think that the styling is contemporary, so it's not in your face, kind of like that Chevy over there. That Chevy has some pretty in your face styling, especially on the hood. I love the design that they give you up here. Projector LED headlights and fog lights, however they're using incandescent turn signals. But the Z71 does give you the painted front bumpers. You have that darker gray trim piece down below, red recovery hooks. This truck does have a forward facing camera, however it's optional. And I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but this truck does not have front parking sensors either. So that's what I was kind of saying. Most of the things on the Chevy either have to be option or just not available. But apart from that, you do get LED headlights and fog lights standard on this higher trim level. Now moving off to the side, you guys saw this had a 20-inch wheel, which was an option. You do get 18s, which does have a nice styling. These are the Bridgestone Dueler tires. If you care to know the tire size, is a 255, 55, 20 compared to the 18s. I do like these wheels a little bit more. It has a machine face, kind of like the Chevys has a machine face too. And the tire is a Goodyear Wrangler Territory AT. 255, 65, 18. Both trucks are going to have independent front suspensions. They give you the fabric material in the wheel wells. That helps with noise, and I think it makes cleaning up a little bit easier too. The Chevy does have some running boards. Ford is available with those. Now, here's some of the badging on the side for the Ford and Colorados. As far as the mirror caps go, they do give you a black trim piece that's painted compared to the one that color matches for the Ford. You have those cameras on the side of the mirrors. However, Ford does give you a turn signal right here. Blind spot monitoring right there on both sides. Painted door handles. Smart key system on both sides. And moving on back, Both trucks are gonna have pretty much the same bed. You can tell that the Ford does sit a little bit higher too compared to the Z71 Colorado. But there is some LED accent lights, but most of the bulbs are gonna be incandescent for like your brake lights, reverse lights, turn signals. Same thing goes for the Ford. Your running lights and your brake lights are gonna be LED, but turn signals and reverse lights are gonna be incandescent bulbs. Incandescent bulbs for license plate, but they have LED ones for the Ford. Rear parking sensors on both sides. And let me go back up to the front really quickly. Ford does give you a parking sensor on the side of the fender flare here for the front and also for the rear out back, and that is good for pulling into a garage. They do not give you that on the Chevy. However, Chevy does give you the standard bed step or bumper step, if you want to call it that. It is available on the Ford, and it would be like right here. So this plastic trim piece would basically become a step. Here's some of the badging on the side. It says Sport 4x4, Z71 on the Chevy. Backup camera does come standard for both trucks, and the hitch, believe it or not, hitches are optional in these trucks. I'm not sure why, but 4 and 7 pin on both sides. Now, is the tailgate assisted? Yes, it is. However, that is an option. Also, on the Ford, it is standard. They give you a 12 volt, 180 watts max, 400 watt, 120 volt plug right here, in case you want to see those. And they give you bed lights below the rails. Those do come standard. The Chevy does have that available, but it is an option. But you have 400 watts of power, 120 volt plug there. You have multiple tie downs in the bed, and I like where they're mounted. Same thing goes with Ford. They have them mounted pretty nicely. You have 6 in total compared to 8 for the Chevy. And lastly, Chevy does clean up with this extra storage right here. Very nice. It is protected from the elements too, and I don't think that's available for the Ford. As far as the rear axle goes, the Ford has a 373 rear, and then here's the spare tire. Does not match the wheels. Now if you're looking at a Chevy Colorado, here's the spare tire, same story, it does not match, but 342 rear end. When it comes down to the powertrains, Ford has a 2.3 liter EcoBoost, Chevy has a 2.7 liter Turbo Max. Ford puts out 270 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. All that power goes through a 10-speed transmission. Now Chevy has 310 horsepower but 430 pound-feet of torque. All that power goes through an 8-speed transmission. Now there is a 2.7 liter twin turbo V6 available for the Ford Ranger, but right now is not coming up as an option. So right now Chevy is a clear winner. I think that the 8-speed versus the 10-speed is a toss-up. Depends on how you look at it, but I do like both of these engines. Aluminum heads and block. You do have a fully forged bottom end on the Chevy. Let's go ahead and check out the interiors. Ranger's Lariat trim is really nice, guys. They give you the soft touch at the very top here, which is pretty rare on these mid-size pickups. Soft touch here and where your arm is going to rest at. I like the accents that they add to the door. You have 3 seat memories right there. You have automatic up and down for the front but not the rear. Power folding mirrors on the outside. A little bit of storage and a bottle holder. 10-way driver's seat with lumbar. 8-way for the passenger. The Chevy Colorado does have a nice interior, especially right here. All this is soft touch. I love the red stitching. It has that sporty feel. You have the silver accent with the gloss black accent right there. But all this is hard plastic. There's a lot more plastic on this truck. Also, this truck does not have leather seats. Now this material here is like a vinyl, and then this is like a cloth insert. Really nice design. I like the red accents all throughout this interior. Now this seat here is a 10-way with lumbar, but that's an option. And on the passenger side, this is a manually operated seat. So I think personally this is where I think Chevy kind of dropped the ball. The interior for the Ford is definitely nicer. I do like the seats a lot better too. Now, if I get another chance, I will do a Z71 with leather to put up against the Lariat. But yeah, these seats win hands down. They have nice bolstering on the sides there, top and bottom. Tilt and telescoping steering wheel comes standard. That is an option on the Chevy. Power folding mirrors for the Ford on the outside for both sides, and it's not available for the Chevy. But you have to keep in mind, the Chevy is $7,000 cheaper than the Ford. So yes, that wireless charger is an option, dual climate control is an option, heated seats is an option. However, push button start does come standard. And they give you the large screens, 11-inch and 11.4-inch screen here, standard. Now this truck does have the sunroof, and I love the fact that they give you the black liner for the Chevy. Now, another thing I like about the Chevy is they do give you 360 camera as an option, but the screen is so much clearer compared to the Ford. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So at the very top is your reverse, and then this is your 360. So I think I like the orientation of the screen better in the Chevy because you just have a clearer screen. Now, I do like the gear selector in the Ford here, and something else that you'll like about the Ford is the dash. They give you this soft touch leather right here, and it just really dresses up the interior. A little bit of storage right there, but they do give you that light color roof. However, they do give you LED lights, and you have a power sliding glass that comes standard. So LED lighting, and you have HomeLink, but you have this light color roof that you guys saw on the Chevy had a black one. But in the Chevy, you don't have HomeLink, and you have incandescent bulbs for the interior, unfortunately. But they do give you the lighting for your vanity here. Now on the dash, all this is hard plastic, but I do like that they give you that material on the dash here, which does dress it up. Another high gloss black trim piece that makes the interior look a little bit more inviting. Now, let me show you guys something I love about the Chevy. I think that the Ford may have this, I have to look again, but I like that they give you the temperature for your coolant right there, and they give you a readout for it. Also, transmission, oil pressure, and oil temperature. Now this screen here is my favorite too, because the way they laid this out is really nice. You can get some of this information over to this screen too, and you have the navigation full screen on this side too, although you do have to pay for the membership for that Google over time. But the layout, the orientation of this is so much nicer in my opinion. Here's some of your off-road pages there. Let's go ahead and check out the Fords. For the Ford, I don't see that they give you what they would call a general measurements. I don't see that screen on this truck here, but they do give you these at the very top, and they don't show you a number, but they show you that you're within the safe range to use that. But I looked through the system and I did not see where you can configure to have the numbers shown, so that does kind of stink a little bit. But nevertheless, both trucks have their strengths and weaknesses. You have a 12 volt, by the way, inside of here, and the drive modes, they do have it that you can see. So they have normal, eco, sport, tow haul, and slippery. But apart from that, both trucks had a trailer brake, and they both come pretty well equipped. The Chevy just takes a lot more since everything is pretty much an option. But let's just go ahead and check out the rear, and then I'll show you guys the Payload next. Surprisingly, the Ford does not have a 60/40 bench. There is a hump in the middle, but you have a 120 volt plug and 2 USBs down below. A little bit of storage below the seat back pockets on both sides, and you have an armrest for the center. As far as the Chevy goes, they do provide air vents in the back. The Ford does not. 2 cup holders, 2 USBs, another 120 volt plug down below here. Let me show it to you really quickly. 120 volt, just like the Ford. However, the hump is not as big in the center. The floor does sit a little bit lower, and you have a 60/40 bench out back. They don't provide an armrest, and that glass is manually operated, whereas the Ford was powered. So again, like I said, both trucks have their strengths and weaknesses. I think the Ford has a little bit more storage because most of this is for your like jack and all your tools for that. Maybe a little bit right there, but the seat back pockets, one on this side, none on the driver's side. Let's check out the payload for both trucks. Here are all the numbers on the door. The axle rating up front is going to be 3,130 pounds. The rear is 3,573 pounds. Gross fuel equivalent rating is going to be 6,170 pounds. 18 by 7.5 wide wheels. 1,611 pounds of payload. The Chevy pretty much beats the Ford in almost every category. 3,500 pound gross axle up front, 3,600 pound in the rear, 6,250 gross fuel equivalent rating, 20 by 9 wide wheels, but the payload is where it takes the hit. So, not to make excuses for the Chevy, but sunroof, running boards, and spray ends is going to really take away from that payload number. And that's why I think the Chevy is really hurting. Even those 20-inch wheels are probably heavier than the 18s, but nevertheless, the Ford definitely won today. I think that if I were looking for a truck, I probably would pick the Ford Ranger. I think that I like the options and features that it has a little bit more. Don't get me wrong. I think that once you add the bigger engine for the Ford and a sunroof and running boards, that truck's gonna be way more money, even if you added a few more options to the Chevy. But I don't know, what do you guys think? I think the Ford won today. Let me know in the comment section what you think. Chevy definitely does have the price point, but if you do want a more decked out truck, like I typically buy a decked out truck, so that's probably why I'm saying that. But if you don't care about all the extra options, the Chevy won today for sure in the pricing. And I think that the styling is better on the Chevy. I think that the Chevy has more of that aggressive look over the Ford. But as far as the features go and the layout, I think that the Ford Ranger won for me today.